Hello, my friends. Close your eyes. Let your mind drift away from the noise of the 21st century. Let us travel back in time. It is June 5th, 1911. The place, Nyarong Harbor, Saigon. On the misty dock of the early morning, there stands a large ship named Admiral Latouche-Treville. The ship's horn echoes, tearing through the silence. Among the crowd of sailors and laborers, there is a young man. He is thin. His eyes shine with an unusual brightness. In his pocket, he has no money, no prestigious degrees. He has only a new name, Van Ba, and a determination that history will forever remember. Why did he leave? Look at Vietnam in 1911. The blood of patriots had been shed across the fields. Uprisings had failed. Some went to Japan hoping for help from fellow Asians, but this young man thought differently. He asked himself, where do our enemies come from? Why are they strong? Why do they speak of freedom in their country, yet bring chains to ours? He was not seeking a savior, he was seeking the truth. I want to go abroad, to see France and other countries. After observing how they do things, I will return to help our people. It was a simple statement, but it marked the beginning of a 30-year journey. 30 years of loneliness, 30 years of freezing winters in Paris, 30 years of imprisonment in darkness. Yet tonight, on the ship's deck, he is only a kitchen assistant, carrying trays, cleaning floors, but in his mind lives the image of an entire suffering nation. Time passes. We meet him again in Paris. Now he has a new name, Nguyen Ai Quoc, Nguyen the Patriot. Paris in 1919 is magnificent but merciless to the poor. In a small, unheated room on Compoint Street, how does he survive the bitter European winter? Each morning he heats a brick over a coal stove. At night, he wraps it in old newspapers and places it at the foot of his bed for warmth. Is the brick hot? Yes, but his heart burns even hotter. In 1919, world powers gather at Versailles to discuss peace. Wearing borrowed clothes, Nguyen Ai Quoc arrives to present the petition of the Annamite people. He demands freedom. He demands equality. But what do the presidents and prime ministers do? They ignore him. They speak of freedom for themselves, not for the colonies. At that moment, he learns a harsh but realistic lesson. To gain independence, a nation must rely on its own strength. Then comes a turning point. One day, he reads Lenin's thesis on national and colonial questions. Imagine the scene. In a small room, Nguyen Ai Quoc reads each line carefully, and he weeps. He cries out, as if speaking to millions back home, "Oh, oppressed and suffering compatriots, this is what we need. This is the path to our liberation." From a patriot, he becomes a communist, not out of political ambition, because he finds a tool to save his country. He realizes that Vietnam's struggle is no longer alone, it is part of a global movement. He begins writing. He leads the newspaper La Paria, the pariah. Every page he writes is like a blade cutting into the hypocrisy of colonialism. The photo retoucher in Paris is preparing a storm. Now we turn to another chapter. The year is 1942. Nguyen Ai Quoc is now Ho Chi Minh. He has returned to Vietnam and built a base in Pac Bo. But during a mission in China, he is arrested by Chiang Kai-shek's authorities. Imagine chains around his neck. Imagine his feet shackled as he walks hundreds of miles through prisons in Guangxi. Treated like a criminal, he suffers, losing teeth, his hair turning gray. In such conditions, an ordinary person would collapse. But what does he do? He writes poetry. He writes prison diary. Though the body is imprisoned, the spirit is free. To achieve great deeds, the spirit must be stronger still. This is the highest expression of willpower. Prison can confine the body, but never a free soul. Through his words, we see a philosopher observing life through prison bars, watching fellow prisoners starve, watching farmers in the fields, and tempering himself like steel in fire. He writes of a chess game where a pawn can become a hero if it moves correctly. He himself is that pawn on the history's chessboard. Even in darkness, he sees the dawn of independence. In 1945, the world trembles. Japan surrenders. France falters. A power vacuum emerges. From a small hut in Tan Trao, Ho Chi Minh sees the moment. He is gravely ill with malaria. Some nights he drifts in and out of consciousness. Yet when he awakens, his first words are, "Even if we must burn the Truam Son Range, we must gain independence." That is not the voice of a dying man. It is the command of iron will. The general uprising begins. The entire nation rises like a compressed spring released. Farmers leave their fields. Workers leave factories. They have no tanks, no planes, only sticks, spears, and an unbreakable belief. Why do they follow him? Because he has given them back their dignity. September 2nd, 1945, Ba Ding Square, a sea of people. On a simple wooden platform stands an old man in a worn khaki suit and rubber sandals. No crown, no throne, yet the crowd falls silent. He reads the Declaration of Independence, calm, clear, steady. He quotes the American Declaration of Independence, a brilliant move, using the ideals of their oppressors to expose their hypocrisy. At one point, he pauses and asks, "Can you hear me clearly?" And the crowd roars back, "Yes." That yes is more than a response. It is a covenant between leader and people. The Democratic Republic of Vietnam is born, but this is only the beginning. War returns. In 1946, the French come back with tanks and airplanes. Vietnam has only barefoot soldiers and simple weapons. Ho Chi Minh retreats to the mountains, living in huts, eating simple meals. Why? Because a leader must live like the people. He advocates a long-term resistance war, turning weakness into strength through endurance. Like a tiger against an elephant, the tiger survives by patience and strategy. In 1954, at Dien Bien Phu, the impossible happens. With human strength, pulling artillery by hand, transporting supplies by bicycles, the Vietnamese defeat a modern army. The victory shocks the world. Yet he remains humble. The struggle is not over. In his final years, he lives simply in a wooden stilt house in Hanoi. No luxury, just a bed, a desk, books, and worn clothes. Why? Because to live is to serve, not to enjoy. His heart always turns to the South. The South is always in my heart. In 1965, he begins writing his testament, not about power, but about love, unity, and care for the people. On September 2nd, 1969, 24 years after independence, his heart stops. The nation mourns. Millions line up in the rain to say goodbye. The world bows its head. But has he truly gone? He lives on in children going to school, in a nation rising, in the ideals of integrity, simplicity, and patriotism. He leaves behind not wealth, but thought, self-reliance, sacrifice, faith in humanity. Like a devoted gardener, he planted the seeds of independence. Today, we harvest the fruits of peace. Thank you. Thank you to the son of Neon who traveled the world to find a path home for his people. His story will be told forever as a living legend, a guiding light for generations. Sleep well, beloved father of the nation. Vietnam will forever remember your name. Ho Chi Minh.